Pastor Matt, and I'm here sitting in my office down at the church. And for those that know me real well, know that I am a big Andy Griffith fan. And so I thought over the next couple of weeks I would share out of this book that is titled The Way Back to Mayberry, Lessons from a Simpler Time, and the author's name is Joey Fann. So I thought I'd like to share this with you. Chapter 1 is titled, You Never Asked. And the scripture that goes with it comes from the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Opie's Charity is an early episode in the series, and one that really highlights the incredible acting ability of young Ronnie Howard. The interaction between Andy and Opie is classic, and we can see the stage being set for a wonderful father-son relationship that will last for years in our hearts and in reruns. The episode begins with Andy and Opie playing catch. While they are playing, Annabelle Silby comes by to solicit help with the annual children's charity drive she heads up every year. Andy and Annabelle go into the courthouse to discuss the status of the charity drive. While at the courthouse, Annabelle compliments the town's children on their willingness to help out with such a worthy cause. Andy, taking this opportunity to brag, suggests that Opie is probably one of the biggest contributors in his class. However, Annabelle relates that Opie only contributed 3 cents in the charity drive. The next lowest contributor was 5 cents, and that was from Roy Pruitt, one of the underprivileged children. Andy is beside himself. He can't believe his son would contribute such a measly amount to a worthy cause like the children's charity drive. When Opie returns to the courthouse, Andy greets him with names like Moneybags and Diamond Jim. Andy proceeds to have a sit-down discussion with his son to discuss the importance of giving. Opie claims he is saving his money to buy his girlfriend, Charlotte, a present. Try as he might, Andy just can't get the point across to his son that he should give more to the charity drive. That night, at supper, Andy still cannot convince Opie that it is important for him to be generous in his giving. Finally, Andy has had it, and he sends Opie to his room. While Andy is muttering to himself about how embarrassing it is for his son, the son of the town sheriff, to give the least amount to the charity drive, Aunt Bee interjects. Aunt Bee asks Andy to stop and think about what he is saying. Is he more concerned about what other people think than he is about his own son? Is he really ready to give up on his son because of this one incident? Andy realizes what he has done and calls Opie downstairs. He tells Opie that it is okay to spend all his money on his girlfriend, and it doesn't matter if he buys her a toy or takes her to a movie for $2 worth of popcorn. Then, Opie says something Andy never expected. Something that Andy never considered. I was saving to buy her a coat, Opie replies. The silence is deafening. A coat? Opie continues, yeah, the one she's got is kinda worn out. And Andy's mouth drops. But Opie, you never told me what the money was for. Opie's response, you never asked. Have you ever considered how easy it is to prejudge someone, to make an assumption before we get all the facts, to automatically assume we know the situation. This episode reminds us of a particular Sunday morning in church. My wife, Nicole, and I were sitting near the front, and two women we didn't know were sitting in front of us. During the service, I noticed that the women were whispering to each other. It really didn't bother me at first, but it was a little distracting. As the service went on, the women kept whispering. Now, this might be expected behavior from two young children, but these were grown-ups. Everyone knows that you're not supposed to talk in church, especially if you are sitting near the front. The more it went on, the more upset I became, and I eventually lost track of the sermon. I had no idea what the preacher was saying. I just couldn't believe these two women had the nerve to be so distracting in church. How juvenile, how rude. In a little while, the sermon was over and it was time for announcements. One of the announcements was a welcome to the wife of one of our missionaries. She was in the States for a short time and wanted to visit our congregation since we were helping to support their mission effort. She was traveling with a friend, and they were sitting in the front. What? I thought. These two women? The women who have distracted me throughout the entire service? The two that caused me not to get anything from this morning's message? And one of them is the wife of a preacher. You've got to be kidding. By the way, the announcer continued, our guest doesn't speak English, so when you introduce yourself, her friend will be happy to interpret for you. There it was. She couldn't understand English. Her friend was her interpreter. That's why they were whispering. Now it made sense. Suddenly, upon reflection, they didn't seem so distracting. In fact, they were being very discreet, trying not to disturb anyone. She just wanted to know what was being said, and her friend was just trying to help. I felt very small. I slowly realized that the reason I was mad and the reason I didn't get anything from the service was not these ladies' fault. It was all my fault because I assumed I knew the situation. I assumed I knew all the facts. I didn't know the facts. I judged the scene based on my perception, just like Andy did with Opie. He was willing to ignore all the good he knew about his son, and for what? Because he assumed the worst. He assumed his son had done wrong, and he was worried that Opie would embarrass him. How easy it can be to lose our faith in others, all because we jump to conclusions, because we prejudge. That Sunday morning I kept thinking to myself, you never told me she didn't speak English. But then again, I never asked. Thank you. Hope all is going well. Stay safe, stay well, and God bless.